This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. This person is the owner of the cauldron of mountain and river? Yunxiao guessed in his heart. Suddenly, the figure drawn by the faint black ink moved. His pupils violently twitched as he saw the hand seal of the meditating martial artist suddenly change. From an ordinary vajra seal, it began to slowly split apart. With one hand above and one hand below, the two hands formed different seals on the left and right sides. Following the appearance of the mark, tadpole-like characters appeared on the cauldron of mountain and river in front of the cultivator. After the first change, the second and third changes quickly followed. All kinds of complicated incantation seals appeared one by one in his hands. The tadpole-like characters on the cauldron of mountain and river also changed along with the appearance of these seals. The two were shining on each other. Yunxiao's heart trembled, and he immediately understood the importance of these seals and tadpole-like characters. He stared at each handprint and the words that appeared, trying to memorize them by force. However, what made him anxious was that these wonderful techniques were like clouds and smoke in front of him. He would forget them with one look. The shape of the cauldron of mountain and river changed according to the incantation seals in the warrior's hands. It seemed to be explaining the way to use the purple cauldron. Although it was just a few simple strokes, it displayed an extremely beautiful picture. However, the more anxious he was, the faster he would forget. If this goes on, we'll be drawing water with a wicker basket, and will learn nothing. Yunxiao was also a man who had experienced countless storms and waves, so he made a decision in an instant. He closed his eyes slightly and relaxed his body and mind, clearing his spirit ocean and eliminating all distracting thoughts and emotions. With his level of enlightenment, he soon entered the state of the integration of heaven and man. His entire person seemed to be one with the white world around him. There was no longer any distinction, no longer himself, and no distracting thoughts. At this time, he slowly opened his eyes and saw that the martial artist's hands were like swords, and the other 3 fingers of his left hand were holding his right hand. In response, 3 new tadpole-like characters appeared on the cauldron. Now, Yunxiao's eyes narrowed, and his pupils turned into full moons, emitting a demonic blue light. The handprint appeared in his eyes, and he couldn't see anything else. The 3 tadpole-like characters appeared in his sea of consciousness, turned golden, and imprinted on his spiritual altar. His idea was very simple. Instead of learning nothing, it was better to take a scoop of the weak water. He focused all his energy and adjusted his condition to the best state, integrating with the surrounding heaven and earth. Only then did he manage to memorize this move from the countless complicated hand seals in a hurry. After this hasty glance, he closed his eyes again to avoid being disturbed by the other hand seals of the warrior. As he focused on memorizing and inscribing, the handprint and the 3 golden tadpole-like characters were finally fixed in his mind. At this moment, he suddenly understood the meaning of the 3 golden tadpole-like characters that he had never seen before. So this hand seal is called a bright king seal. After reaching intent, his essence, energy, and spirit suddenly rose to a whole new state. He seemed to have gained a further understanding of the rules contained in the golden tadpole-like characters. A strange feeling spread throughout his body. This feeling is the power of the spirit. Yunxiao was taken aback. After slightly comprehending the 3 golden tadpole-like characters, the tiny energy in his dantian seemed to have been nourished, and it began to move slowly along his meridians, as if it were very happy. That's strange. Could it be that this pure power also has emotions? The joy exuded by the energy made Yunxiao feel indescribably comfortable, but at the same time, he felt very puzzled. He knew that this kind of power was the same as those golden tadpole-like characters, and it was beyond his understanding. He simply emptied his mind and didn't think too much, allowing the spiritual energy to flow in his body, nourishing his body and meridians. That feeling was very comfortable. After an unknown amount of time, the spiritual energy stopped circulating and returned to his dantian. It seemed to be even more vigorous than before. Not only that, but Yunxiao's physical body and meridians had also been significantly strengthened. The toughness and width of his meridians had been greatly improved, but the only thing that troubled him was that his yuan qi was far from sufficient, which became his greatest shackle. After his spiritual energy stopped, he slowly opened his eyes from his meditation. The evolution of the cultivator and the cauldron of mountain and river had already ended. As his gaze fell, the black ink that separated the two also faded. It rose in spirals in the white smoke and disappeared without a trace. What a pity. It's such a wondrous set of spells, but I only learned the next move. How sad. Yunxiao sighed in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. He did not know when he would have such an opportunity again. Ming King seal. He recalled the hand seal he had learned and couldn't help but imitate it. He put his hands together and performed it. All of a sudden, a beam of golden light shot out from the seal on his fingertip. The three golden tadpole-like characters suddenly appeared around the seal, flickering and emitting a strange power of natural order around his fingertip. The spiritual energy in his body was also stimulated and began to move around his meridians. It gushed out from the seal and emitted a golden light. The white world around him began to change dramatically under this seal. This is indeed the inner space of the cauldron of mountain and river. There's already a reaction from the seal. He didn't dare to move his hands. He clenched the Ming King seal tightly and let the void around him change. The white mist seemed to dissipate in an instant and finally came out of the purple cauldron. A forbidden night appeared in front of him and he felt extreme silence. This is the tool charm space. I'm out. Yunxiao looked around with great joy. In this extreme of silence, everyone was frozen. Even the three unparalleled forces of 9th-tier mystic artifacts still crossed the sky and fell on the cauldron of mountain and river, but strangely, they seemed to have frozen. Between the three powers and the cauldron of mountain and river, they were separated by the dense purple clouds. Although they were very close, they seemed to be far away from endless space and time. The only thing that was moving in the entire space was the diamond-shaped crystal that was still absorbing the structure of all things. Under the radiation of his divine sense, it still showed the endpoint, as if it was about to end. The golden light of the small boat in the crystal was getting stronger and stronger. All of a sudden, the extreme silence collapsed without any warning. Time flowed smoothly again in this instant, and the entire world instantly immoved. Yunxiao was taken aback. The moment the extreme silence disappeared, he felt the three domineering power fluctuations sweep him in like waves, and he was about to be destroyed. Damn it, you didn't even give me any time to prepare, you just said you'd come. He cursed in his heart. He no longer had any thoughts. The aura of death penetrated into every pore of his body. He had never felt so close to death before. Ming King seal. Yunxiao roared. At this most dangerous moment, he could not care less and slapped a seal he had just learned on the cauldron of mountain and river. His spiritual energy gushed out of his body, and three golden tadpole-like characters emerged one by one. In an instant, thousands of beams of light in 9 colors shot out of the dense purple mist, like a dreamlike world of glaze. With the cauldron of mountain and river as the center, they spread out and enveloped Yunxiao. Boom boom boom. The three attacks exploded completely. The huge energy wreaked havoc in the entire weapon rune space. The entire space turned into an incandescent color that was blinding to the eyes. Little Qing and the others, who were far away, also ran back in horror. Once this kind of power was affected, even if they were at their peak, they would still die, let alone when their strength was completely suppressed. That was the full power of 3 pieces of 9th-tier profound armaments. Standing in the 9-colored glass, Yunxiao looked out in surprise. The powerful force that had rushed in was all devoured by the 9-colored glass. He could not sense any power fluctuations, nor was there any danger. Big brother Yunxiao. Yi Fan's cry of grief could be heard from outside. Under such a violent power, he would definitely die. His eyes were bloodshot, and the corners of his mouth were bleeding from biting. Yunxiao was dead, and he had died for him. He must get Noah's ship and avenge Yunxiao. Yi Fan turned around and grabbed at the golden crystal. He was the closest to it. That Li Yunxiao is finally dead. Now it's your turn. You dare to snatch Noah's ship from me, you must die. Tang Jie's ferocious voice rang out. Under that earth-shattering power, he had dodged the attack with the vermilion bird saber's saber domain. At this moment, he slashed out with his saber and a fiery red saber chi descended from the sky, directly suppressing the demonic chi around Yifan's devil sky silk. His entire body turned into a ray of light and rushed to the side of the diamond-shaped crystal. The structure of the myriad existences rapidly shrank. In the midst of the battle between the two, they finally finished absorbing everything. At this moment, everyone's eyes widened as they held their breath and stared at the golden crystal, waiting for the next change. And the next change seemed to be in everyone's mind. Perhaps the Noah's ship that touched everyone's heartstrings was about to appear. Noah's ship is mine. Tang Jia was so excited that his entire body trembled as he frantically grabbed the golden crystal. Yifan was forced back by more than 10 meters, unable to get close, he could only watch as he was grabbed, he was very anxious. Clang. Just as Tang Jie's right hand was half a foot away from the golden crystal, an ear-piercing sound came from the crystal. The force of the sound wave directly penetrated Tang Jie's palm and hit his body. A sharp pain came from Tang Jie's right hand, and his whole body turned pale with fright. He hurriedly raised the vermilion bird saber in front of him to protect the vital parts of his body, but the blade was still hit by a huge impact and was sent flying dozens of meters away with a bang, rolling in the air. Everyone looked at the golden crystal in shock. An exquisite mini-boat was slowly spinning in the crystal, exuding a soul-shaking power. At this moment, it was not only the profound level weapon's pressure, but also rays of dazzling golden light. They were extremely dazzling and formed a golden ocean around them. Zhang Xiaotian suddenly shouted in horror, You're actually not dead. Just as everyone's eyes were focused on the golden crystal, the aftermath of the explosion of the three ultimate profound artifacts not far away gradually dissipated. In the light of the day, Yunxiao's figure gradually appeared, standing in the glazed light of the cauldron of mountain and river. Apart from Li, who seemed to have expected this, everyone else was shocked and in disbelief. She really couldn't figure out how he had managed to survive that earth-shattering explosion. The purple cauldron behind him spun slowly, and the nine-colored glazed light formed an extremely small space, just like the Xuanqi territory. Each of them had a huge question in their mind. Their faces were gloomy. They felt that there were more and more variables in this space, and they were completely out of control. At this time, the light from the golden crystal became stronger and stronger, as if a sun had exploded, forming a golden world in the surroundings. It began to expand in all directions, shining on everyone. As the golden light spread out, a holy and solemn aura also spread. At this moment, all the profound level weapons dimmed and the territories disappeared. Everything returned to normal and became gentle and tamed under the golden light. No one could feel any power from them. Even the demonic sky armor on Yifan's body lost all of its demonic chi and became the most ordinary armor on his body, without any light. The golden ocean continued to expand and soon collided with the nine-colored glass world of the cauldron of mountain and river. It was greatly hindered and stopped in front of the glass world. What's wrong with this? Everyone was shocked and widened their eyes. What was that purple cauldron next to Yunxiao? It could actually compete with the vessel rhythm of Noah's ship? The golden ocean and the glass world started to squeeze together. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a terrifying spiritual pressure burst forth and crushed the entire space. A huge spatial crack appeared and spread into the distance. The collision of the two powers was not very brutal. Instead, they were quietly pressing against each other. After the spatial crack exploded, it also slowly gathered together, forming two distinct worlds. One was a golden ocean with the crystal as the center, and the other was a glass world with the cauldron of mountain and river as the center. It's indeed a saint tool. How lucky is he to be able to monopolize two saint tools? Sheng's face was filled with complicated emotions. It was at this moment that he truly feared Yunxiao. What they were afraid of was not his power or the holy weapon, but that kind of fate that was hidden in the dark. No matter how strong one's strength was, there would always be a time when one would be defeated. However, luck was the heavenly fortune, and one would not dare to compete with it. To be able to possess two saint weapons in this era, he must be someone who inherited the heavenly fate. The appearance of two different worlds made everyone unable to react in time. But, at this time, even a fool knew that the purple cauldron in front of Yunxiao, which was emitting a 9-colored glazed light, was actually a supreme-grade mystic artifact. Wasn't there only one transcendent-grade profound-level weapon? Everyone's mind was filled with question marks. They had never heard of the purple cauldron. Tang Jia was also stunned. After taking a deep breath, he suddenly rushed towards the golden crystal. Why was there a second super-grade profound-level weapon? He didn't care so much, but Noah's boat was right in front of him. As long as he could get it, he could lead the Four Extremes sect, unify the Merchant Union, and conquer the world. Yi Fan was overjoyed to see that Yunxiao was not dead. He gave a light cry and chased after Tang Jia. Suddenly, the demonic sky armor on his body lost its luster and could not be activated no matter what. Tang Jia also discovered this phenomenon. The vermilion bird saber in his hand was also like a dead man. No matter how much he poured his primordial chi into it, it was useless. Correspondingly, his own strength gradually recovered at this moment. Go to hell, you dare to compete with me. Tang Jia turned around and shouted as he raised his saber and slashed down. Although the vermilion bird saber did not have any weapon aura under the deterrence of Noah's ship, Tang Jia himself was in existence at the peak of the martial emperor realm. As his primordial chi poured into the saber, it turned into a saber light that left his body and slashed down in the golden ocean of weapon aura. Yi Fan was shocked. With a flash of green light, a sword appeared in his hand and he used a sacred skill. A faint rule force appeared on the sword and he used it to block in front of him. Clang. The weapons clashed, producing a buzzing sound and an endless vibration. The two of them once again used various martial skills to battle. Although there was a huge gap between the profound-level weapons in their hands, at this moment, it was completely a competition of individual cultivation. Tang Jia was far stronger than Yi Fan, and in a few moves, he had forced Yi Fan to retreat. Great cross-shaped void slash. Tang Jia felt a burst of frustration in his heart. He gathered all his strength on the long saber and slashed it down ruthlessly. Bang. Although there was no beautiful blade rhythm, it still broke Yi Fan's sword and the blade light continued towards his head. That blade light directly slashed on the Devil Sky Silk, but it didn't leave a mark. However, the huge force sent Yi Fan flying dozens of meters before he stopped. A cold glint flashed in Tang Jia's eyes. It was not possible to kill Yi Fan in a short time and he found that it was not only the two of them, everyone was in the same situation. The profound-level weapon had lost all its power and their yuan power was slowly recovering. This was definitely a bad sign. Feng Yi, Little Qing, and the others in the distance were all overjoyed, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. Tang Jia was shocked. He no longer cared about killing Yi Fan and directly flew to grab the golden crystal. With a crack, the entire golden space seemed to tremble, and everyone's nerves tightened. In particular, Feng Yi in the distance, Little Qing, and the others, after sensing that their strength was gradually recovering, were gathering their strength bit by bit, ready to attack at any time. Since the appearance of the Xuanqi realm verse, these people had been holding back their grievances and wanted to cry. They were already full of resentment. At this moment, their whole body was burning with anger and anger. However, the power of the golden crystal was too strong, so they did not dare to be reckless. One by one, they stared at Tang Jia, waiting for the right time. After Tang Jia grabbed the golden crystal in his hand, the golden ocean illuminated his body so much that he couldn't be seen clearly. Only an excited voice could be heard, trembling with excitement as he muttered, "Power, this is power. I can feel all the power I've ever felt before. This is Noah's ship? It's mine. Too much nonsense. If there are no other variables, you can go die." Suddenly, Qing's voice came from the sky. He had recovered more than half of his strength. No one could catch up with his speed as he transformed into lightning. He instantly appeared behind Tang Jia with a cold face. Tang Jia was taken aback. He hurriedly turned around and swept his saber horizontally. Xiao Qing's powerful thunder and lightning power made his hair stand on end. The vermilion bird saber brought with it a blade light as it slashed into little Qing's body. It didn't encounter much resistance, and it directly swept through. Lightning crackled on the surface of the blade, and it was as bright as day amidst the golden light. "You're so silly." Tang Jie's heart suddenly sank. The other party's body had turned into thunder and lightning. Without the Emperor Qi of the Nine Heavens, he could not hurt him at all. Noah's ship, hand it over. Qing didn't force him. It only stretched out its hand with a grave expression and said, "This is not something you should have. Give it to me and you can keep your life. If it's not mine, then it's yours?" Tang Jie's face suddenly changed and he roared. "This Noah's ship can only be occupied by the capable. No one is more qualified than me here." He directly stretched out the golden crystal and shouted, "Noah's ship, a supreme grade profound artifact. Unleash your power and kill this man in front of you." Qing's expression changed. It quickly retreated dozens of meters and put up its guard. However, the golden crystal continued to flash with golden light and didn't make any more movements. It didn't give him any face at all. "Noah's ship, go crazy. Kill him, kill them all." Tang Jie's face was pale, and his forehead was full of sweat. He kept swinging the golden crystal in his hand, but there was still silence and no reaction. "Thunder, blast." Qing pointed to the sky, and a bolt of lightning gathered at its fingertip. It flickered continuously as it pointed at Tang Jie. The thunderbolt suddenly rumbled and shot out at an extremely fast speed. Its power was shocking. Tang Jie immediately felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His body turned cold under the power of the lightning, but his mind immediately sobered up. He hurriedly threw the golden crystal at the lightning while shouting, "Brother Sheng, save me." He rushed towards Sheng. If he continued to be stubborn, he would really be dead. Boom. When the lightning struck the golden crystal, everyone was shocked. The crystal didn't break. Instead, it was sent flying by the huge force and rolled in the space. At this time, many people couldn't help but start to attack. Feng Yi immediately took out the 5 elements beast taming ring, stepped on it, and quickly rushed into the battlefield. Che Shuyao, Ngu Duangyu, and Zhang Xiaotian also flew over. In addition to having great strength, luck was also an extremely important factor in obtaining Noah's ship, so it might end up in his hands. At this time, if he still did not dare to try, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Shen Feng also waved his hand and flew along with the 9-winged spirit snake bird. Pa! A figure appeared near the golden crystal and caught it with a palm. He held it in front of him and looked at it quietly. At this moment, the golden ocean seemed to have stopped moving. The golden light that illuminated half of the space was suddenly retracted. It was only the size of a palm. The entire world dimmed, leaving only the 9-colored glass world of the cauldron of mountain and river. The man's upper body was bare, and the mark on his chest was emitting a faint golden light, responding to the golden crystal in his hand.